Hello friends! So today I'm bringing you my June wrap-up. I have a record number of books that I read this month. I read 7 books this month, which is really unusual for me. I usually average around 3, 4, 5 books a month. So reading 7 books a month was a big deal for me. I'm really happy with that. The first book that I completed this month was actually a new release, and that was Every Note Played by Genova. And I don't have a physical copy of this, but if I can figure out how to do it, I will insert a picture of it right here. But Every Note Played by Genova is about a man who develops ALS, which, if you're not familiar with what ALS is, it's basically the same thing that Stephen Hawking had. This man, his name is Richard, he also happens to be a world-renowned pianist, and that's how he makes his living. And of course he can't be a pianist anymore, and as you read the book, you basically are inside his head and experiencing what he's experiencing as he slowly loses the use of his hands, his legs, his speech, and the author takes you basically inside his head while all of this is happening. There's another character that we are also inside their head, and that is his ex-wife. So we go between being in her head and being in his head. Overall, I thought this book was really great. I really enjoyed reading it. It's very sad. It's a heavy subject, but it's well worth the read, I thought. And being a pianist myself, I also really appreciated that Genova really did her research and actually references like certain pieces. I believe the author actually took some piano lessons herself while she was writing the book, and got a lot of insight into what it is to be a professional musician. So I appreciated her research. It was extremely well researched. As you're going between each character's perspective, you're also uncovering what it is that broke up their marriage and just the brokenness and heartache they feel as adults living after a divorce. It's ultimately a book about forgiveness and how it's never too late to forgive someone. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The only criticism that I really had for it was that it was very slow paced and you're just kind of in the character's head just thinking their thoughts. And there's not a lot of plot. It's a lot of just uncovering what's going on with the character. So if that's not for you, then you may not enjoy this book. But I can highly recommend it. I thought it was great. The second book that I read this year, oh my goodness. Wow. The second book that I read this month was A Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. And I have to give a full disclaimer on this one. I have been working my way through the Mortal Instruments series, not totally enjoying myself, but feeling like, well, I'm this far in and I'm gonna keep going. I know I have a problem with DNFing books. It's a problem. I wish I could just set a book down and walk away from it, but I am kind of invested in the Shadowhunters world at this point, and I want to know what happens. That being said, I loved this so much more. I thought this was way more fun, and the writing was better compared to what I've read so far in the Mortal Instruments. I enjoyed this so much. I loved the Victorian steampunk element of it a lot more, I think, than the New York-based Shadowhunter world. So this was so much fun. I'm sure you don't need me to go into the synopsis of this book too, because you've seen this everywhere, but 4 out of 5 stars as well. The third book that I finished was called UnClobber by Colby Martin. But I wish I could put a copy of this book into everyone's hands that I know. It was that good. I learned a lot from this book that I didn't know before. Colby Martin does in this book is he takes the passages in the Bible that he labels the clobber passages, and the clobber passages are basically the passages in the Bible that Christians have historically used to excommunicate the LGBTQ community from the church. And he basically debunks all of the passages and makes very excellent arguments for the fact that in the Bible we have no context for a loving relationship between a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, or whoever. I just really appreciated this book, and I really hope that more Christian people will be open to even just reading these kinds of books and opening their minds to a different perspective. If you're wondering, I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend, if you've ever wanted to have a good backup for an argument If I just read the first paragraph for you, I think you will get an idea of what this book is about a little better than what I'm explaining. UnClobber is my attempt to say, in one word, that I do not believe that God stands opposed to those who are attracted to the same sex, or that God withholds divine blessing from a same-sex relationship. UnClobber came out of my desire to reverse the damage of the so-called clobber passages. Colby takes you through his life as a pastor. He starts as a very conservative, kind of Southern Baptist pastor at a very conservative church, and he actually gets fired from that church because of his beliefs. And so it partly follows his journey as he actually starts a new church, and then we alternate between hearing about his life and then reading his exposition on the passages in the Bible. 5 out of 5 stars in my opinion. Again, this is gonna rub some people the wrong way depending on what side of the fence you're on this, but I just think it's such a great book if you know those Christian people in your life who are staunchly against the LGBTQ community. Give them this book. The next book that I read was City of Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare, as I'm continuing my way through the Mortal Instruments series, as I just shared with you a little earlier. And it seems like on Goodreads, this one actually has kind of lower ratings than some of the other books, but I actually enjoyed this one a lot more than the first 3. One of my biggest complaints with Cassandra Clare books is that I feel like there's just too much going on at the same time, and storylines just kind of get out of control. And while it's still the same Cassandra Clare writing, it kind of focuses more on one storyline, and I appreciated that. And this book follows Simon a lot more closely, and he's definitely one of the more interesting characters. I felt like we focused a little more on character development in this one, which is a big thing for me. If I don't love the characters, I just don't care about the story. I just, they can die, and that's great. I'm fine. That's fine. You can just die. But this book made me actually start to care a little bit more about them. Speaking of reading good things, I really enjoyed Save the Date by Morgan Matson this month. This you've probably seen around BookTube a little bit. It is Morgan Matson's newest release. I never read any Morgan Matson before, and in general, I have not really picked up very many YA contemporary stories. I don't know why, I just haven't. I love this every step of the way. I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars as well. If you haven't heard of this story before, basically follow a girl named Charlie, and she's 17 years old. She lives at home still with her parents, and her older sister's getting married, and her siblings are flying in from all over the place, and they're all coming together to make one big happy family at the wedding. They're having the wedding in their home's backyard, so that adds to a little bit of the stress and chaos surrounding this event. And then as they're getting ready for the wedding and all the preparations and everything, slowly things start to kind of fall apart and go wrong. Just one little thing here and one little thing there, and it ends up being quite silly, some of the things that go wrong. I found myself having to kind of suspend my disbelief a little bit in this book, because some of these things you're like, okay, that wouldn't probably ever happen. But still, it was really fun and cute and surprisingly deep at the end. Really shocked me how deep we got at the end, and the moral of the story I thought was just a really great message for young people, and old people for that matter. I found the element of the big family really fun because I don't have a big family. Well, actually, I kind of have one now because my parents are remarried, and so we have a bigger family from like all of my step siblings. But growing up, I just had my mom, my dad, and my brother. I thought the characters were really fun. All the siblings were really fun. It was just a fun, cute summer read, and I'm really glad I picked it up. The next book that I picked up this month was Beyond Talent by Angela Myles Beeching. And this book is more geared toward a performing musician. I am a performing musician. I have 3 different degrees in music, so this is kind of just something to inspire me to keep pursuing my career. It had some really great practical knowledge on how to advance your career if you are an aspiring musician. I would say it's more geared towards the classical jazz musician rather than like the rock band type. So just to know that going in. But if you are a music student and you graduated with a degree and you don't know what to do next, this is a great book to go through, and it's definitely one that I will return to time and time again when I'm needing some advice on different topics. I think I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The last book that I completed is volume 2 of Fruits Basket. I've been working my way through this one. I've never read manga before. This is my first manga ever, and I'm really enjoying it. I enjoyed the first one a little more than the second one. I just felt like things were a little scatterbrained in this one. I don't know, maybe, but that's also just kind of the style of the story as I'm learning. So in the end, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars too. I just had such a great reading month, guys. I've never given this many books such high star ratings in the same month. However, there was one book that I DNF'd, and that was Karin Slaughter's Pretty Girls. I tried it because a lot of booktube people that I've watched have actually really rated it highly and recommended it, and I've never read a Karin Slaughter book before. I tried it, it wasn't for me. Between the graphic descriptions and of like some of the rape scenes and things, I think that's just not the images that I want to have in my head. I don't know. There was another problem I had with it too, that I just felt like the story was extreme and that the characters' problems were all extreme. Like, there was no one who was like normal or had like a normal life. Everyone had some kind of extreme problem, and for me that just makes, when everything's extreme, then nothing's extreme. Do you know what I mean? As a crime fiction novel, I felt like the characters needed to be a little more steeped in reality. Now, I haven't actually heard anyone give that kind of criticism on this book, so I may be an unpopular opinion here, but I just couldn't get into it. I got pretty far. I got like 50% of the way through, and I had to set it down because I just didn't care. So if you have a Karin Slaughter recommendation, I'm open to trying out another book from her, but Pretty Girls, just, I don't know, I had to put it down. That's everything that I read in the month of June. I'm excited for the month of July because I'll be participating in the Tome Topple Readathon, and so I've got a couple big books going for that. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books and if you have any thoughts about them. And thank you so much for watching my video today. I will hopefully see you next week, although I'm going out of town, so I don't know if I'm going to get a video up next week, but if I don't get a video up next week, then definitely in 2 weeks. I hope you're having a great summer, and keep reading, and I will see you next time. Bye!